right, we're back with another coffee session. Today, we have none other than the meme king himself. Ariel is joining us. And I am always with my man Vishnu these days. Vishnu, welcome also. Ariel, let's give a little backstory, I think, shall we? We should probably talk about, well, you have a whole presentation. I think you got really serious about this, didn't you?
I mean, I don't know if you could call this a serious presentation. I mean, I don't think we should go over all of it. I think we should just share it afterwards. But I mean, it tells a story. But the backstory is kind of nice. It begins with me getting a Ph.D. in quantum computational chemistry.
And now your job basically consists of sharing memes.
well, that's not accurate. I'm an evangelist. But yeah, I mean, the most impact that I can get towards my goal is through memes. So I meme a lot.
Yes.
We can start with the story of the memes. We can start with the story of me. I mean, I guess.
I think we should probably start with the story of you. Otherwise, yeah.
So as I was saying, I was wrapping up a PhD in chemistry, in quantum chemistry, which is basically, I mean, you have to ask yourself, is this physics? Is this HPC? Is this chemistry? My advisor used to say, told me, you and I both know you're not an academia material. So what are you going to do with yourself? And I said, well, I thought about going into some programming. And he said, well, I have this Fortran thing that I need to do. And we have a budget and we have a collaboration with Intel. So I did some Fortran, massively distributed computing. When that was over, I looked outside and wow, deep learning. So I hopped on that and I studied deep learning and data science on the way. We can talk about my startup days. Afterwards, I did some lead data science for a small startup company called StoreDot. And I'm saying small because $100 million in venture capital is small nowadays. And then COVID hit, and I tried to find something that I can balance out, staying with my kid and wife, who's also a stay-at-home high-tech worker, and the long hours of high-tech. And well, being an evangelist for a product that I helped build is probably the best choice. And that's where I am right now.
Yep. And just so everyone knows, where are you working? You didn't mention it.
Yeah, I wanted to keep this, not non-commercial, but yeah, I'm working for ClearML, one of the companies in the MLOps ecosphere, one of the most interesting ones in the MLOps ecosphere, but yeah.
You can't help yourself, can you?
No, I
can't. You can't help it. Well, let's talk a little bit about this. I mean, for those who are listening in the car, in the podcast sphere, this may be one that you want to check out on YouTube because we're going to share a few memes. And if you want to see any of these memes later on, then we will also leave a link to the presentation in the description below. But what is this story of how you got meming? And let's be honest now, the reason that we're doing this is because your memes on MLOps, they kill. They're just incredible. And I really enjoy having you do them. Sometimes they're a little bit, they're painfully truthful. And at least you can say them. You got the balls to say them because I don't know if I got the balls to say them. So I love that you do that and you haven't been fired yet, which is saying something about ClearML. But let's get the story of how you started doing this, man, and why you do it.
Okay, so story begins actually with the story of ClearML. It used to be called something else. We used to share memes internally. And there's a very large Israeli meme group, shout out, represent. It's data memes. And I used to share some of the office memes there about machine learning, data science. And then when we open sourced our platform, I came up with the idea that, they allow everything there even if it's in meme form. We actually recruited through memes. We asked for CVs there, but only if they have memes there. So they allow everything. So I did some, we called it trains back then, some trains memes, and it was a very, very big hit, and everybody liked it. Then they say, you keep on doing research, but keep on doing some memes for doing some publications. And that's what I did. And when I stopped working for Allegro back then, I kind of kept on doing those memes because it helped me vent out, right? All this, there's a ridiculous field that we're in. And when I came into MLOps, I used the memes to check up on yourself to see what I'm understanding and where I'm at. And I use them as a teaching tool in my presentations. And people said, we like your deadpan humor, we like your memes. I said, okay, I keep on doing that. But then came the day, I think we'll share the meme later, when I saw some very cruel meme about a recent acquisition in the MLOps ecosphere. And I said, wow, this one really hits home. And I said, I can do that as well. I mean, maybe I can use memes to get some, traction for the product without saying the product's name. And maybe, and that didn't work out so much because nobody likes memes about a product that they don't know. But the memes that I did on MLOps, these were, as you said, because they ring truthfully. And there's something about memes that memes can be as extreme as you want because people don't know if to take you seriously or you're joking. I have a memes like, MLOps, that sounds like DevOps with extra steps. And if you're from the DevOps sphere, you'd say, oh yeah, he's right. And if you're the MLOps sphere, you say, we know what you're talking about. And I started doing that. And then I had like an interesting idea for a meme about Kubeflow. Maybe we should go and share the screen.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe we should show some people.
Yeah,
maybe
it's a good time to do that.
And
Am I sharing my screen yet?
Nope.
There it is. Okay, great. So basically, first of all, this is the first meme in MLOps community that everybody resonated to. It's just like the definition of MLOps is hard, right? You seeing that?
This is the first one I saw, actually, I think, of yours.
Yeah, this is January this year. But the story begins earlier. So this is one of my first MLOps memes when I was just trying to understand what MLOps is. Okay. And we fast forward a bit. You can watch this later, people in the crowd. This is the cruel meme I talked about. Let's not discuss this. And fast forward to November 19th, I was just DMing Dimitrios. I mean, can I show this somewhere in your Slack channel? And he's like, sure, do it at random, but you have to tag David Aronchick.
Who is one of the co-creators of Kubeflow.
Yeah. And so let's pause a minute for this meme, right? So this really represents something that I felt deeply inside. And it's a part of a series on Kubeflow memes that I can't show any of those to the general public because then I'd get fired for sure. But so those internal memes, they are safely sound somewhere. But this is something I can share. And so fast forward, I went to my bosses, told them, MLOps meme, I can use them. And they say, yeah, sure, why not? I still haven't got a single retweet of a meme. I think I get some likes on Twitter, but no one retweets my memes. I'm trying to be helpful, but I'm going to be sent to hell. Because but anyways, let's
I love
stop
this one.
Yeah. So and there we are today when I really fine-tune my messaging. I can see a post on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or Slack, and I immediately know what meme I want to use, and I actually do it on the fly some of the times when I'm with my kids, one hand with the kid, one hand with the phone doing the memes. But that's where I am right now. And
this one also got featured. Well, a lot of yours I've seen, you may think that they haven't been retweeted, and that like is a sign of how nobody likes them, but I saw that one that you just put with the cat in the data hackers newsletter. They have like a weekly newsletter that goes out to like 30,000 people, I think. And so it gets noticed. And you said something interesting here, that we are living in a crazy ecosystem with the MLOps sphere, as we call it. Why do you think it's so wild? What is it that makes you, when you see things, what are some things that you see happening that you're just like, what is going on here?
Well, I can say it in many words, and I can say it in a few words. My observation is that we're like in some sort of Stone Age, right? If you think about it, Stone Age wasn't a time where there were like barbarians with clubs. There were a lot of subcultures that were pretty developed, but nothing connected them together, and everybody had their own best practices. And everybody thought they knew how to do something until those guys from the Western, came with their bronze. And this bronze enabled people to make nails for their ships and enabled communications, right? But there was only one way to make bronze. One certain way that everybody copied. Later on, they found out steel, and steel is easier to make. But the transition, of everybody's falling in to some best practice and doing that because of the benefit that it can give, this didn't happen for machine learning yet. So in terms of machine learning, we are in the Stone Age. And what you're seeing in the MLOps sphere is those subcultures raising their heads saying, well, this is how we do stuff. This is how we managed to do X. This is why you're seeing all these stories about, our startup did Y, we failed, but we found out that in order to make it better, we need to solve this specific engineering need. And this is why we started magic.ai or whatever, or amazing.ai. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Eventually, someone, I hope it's us, comes with this magic formula of how you do MLOps. And the moment it happens, I think MLOps as a field will collapse into a point. It will be just part of DevOps, because everything will be fluid and automatic and everything. Abstracted away in some very tight niche. It will work with everything. But until that happens, we are going to see a Cambrian explosion of companies trying to do their best in how to operationalize machine learning.
But you really think that's possible, that it'll go into like you don't think it's more complicated than just the DevOps? I know you have a meme for this.
Well, I mean, at face value, I want to believe it's not that complicated. But that's not me material. Me material is seeing is just commentary. It's a social commentary about what there is and what there is now. I mean, I have a very large theory about how DevOps and MLOps are chasms apart. The fractal complexity of MLOps because of the data. Let's not go into that. Let's keep it simple with the memes. And really taking it back to the point where you said that you're seeing my memes somewhere else. I've seen my memes in other places as well. Sometimes even they lovingly left the watermark in, so people know that the whole reason I'm allowed to do these memes is because of the watermark. So people leaving the watermark is just like gratitude for me. But I mean, if I could make MLOps a little bit better with the memes, I think that I've done my part. And I think I'm not there yet, because I mean, I think I will be there when everybody will meme on MLOps. We won't have just like 2 or 3 or 4 people memeing in the whole entire of the world on MLOps, because for deep learning and ML you see lots of memes. I mean, there are people I can remember from everywhere doing memes on, well, deep learning is hard, training is hard, GPUs are expensive. Those are memes, right? In MLOps, what do we have? We have MLOps is just DevOps or not. and feature stores are everywhere.
Yeah.
What else do we have? So when everybody will think with memes, I think that it means that we have consolidated enough of these best practices to joke on, that we have a social construct that we can talk, and from that we will get the MLOps stack that we are looking for. I mean, I'm part of the alliance, as you know, the Rebel Alliance for AI infrastructure. And I believe that things should click together somehow. But if it's through memes, maybe it.
Yeah.
Well, that was too serious for this kind of talk.
No, that
Let's
was perfect. I wonder about the idea that you speak of and how it's like trying to come up with things clicking together. And I know that's something that we've talked about a few times here in the community and on the podcast, is how can we get some standardization between everyone? Do you have a meme or thoughts on that, or thoughts that can be turned into a meme?
First of all, I have a meme close to it for the Babylon 5 fans here. So it's about definition of what's MLOps, right? So if you're asking what's MLOps, is it the one who tries to sell you an MLOps tool, one tries to buy it, or the actual one that has to build the stack? Okay, and we have some more about that. But yeah, the thing is that if you're clicking, right, if you're trying to build stuff together, and whatever is holding it together, some ants and a balloon, or I have some more of them. Yeah, let's not do this meme thing. I'm not sharing. We can look at it later.
Yeah.
If you're trying to use, for example, YAML as glue, okay, we're clicking everything with YAML. Then you've become, I don't know, you've become a writer, an author, right? All you do is just write texts. You're not actually composing anything except text. And it's really hard to make something like that work in large scale in a way that's flexible enough to be used for many use cases. And we have seen some prominent use cases for MLOps in production, whether you are doing recommender systems, time series analysis, or even deploying object detection of these subgenres has a definition of what's MLOps to them. And for each one of them, you'll have a different stack. And whether or not it clicks together with something more than YAML is just a matter of I don't know, standardization, as you said, but more. It's just there's a concept in DevOps, like DevOps as code. And if you know this concept, I mean, would we have MLOps as code in a like a sweeping way or not? I mean, I'm a great believer of this, but I'm not sure. As a community of builders, we have the right perspective to do something like that will work for all the cases I just said. This is why actually the whole first generation of end-to-end platforms failed. And speaking as a representative of a company that was before we pivoted a little bit, was one of those end-to-end platforms. You can't do end-to-end when there's so many ends.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point to make. And just overall, I think one thing I really hear in what you're saying is our collective social understanding of what MLOps is, what problems we're trying to solve, it still has a long way to go. Kind of how you described it as being everybody should be a meme maker, because everybody should know what the problems and what the realities and what the opportunities in the space are. And when everyone's a meme maker, they get it. It's a simple way of saying you get it. And actually, that's one of the things I love about the memes that you make, because I feel like when I understand them, I get something. I'm in on it. There's so much in a community, especially in technical communities, that I feel is actually baked in, kind of, right? There's a lot of jargon we use. Like, a year and a half ago, before I joined the MLOps Slack, I would never have known what Kubeflow is. right? But now we all throw around that word so much, and sometimes I find a little bit that it can be a little bit intimidating, right? Because if you're just let's just say you're an ML engineer, right, at a company where maybe they're not as plugged into the MLOps ecosystem, right? You're solving problems, you're doing great work, but you don't necessarily know all the inside jokes and everything. And I do think, or the jargon, and I do think your memes help make things a little bit more accessible. And so I think I appreciate it for that. One question I have is, we had Sarah Robinson from Google come on. And she's a developer advocate at Google, and she talked a little bit about the uniqueness of that role, what evangelism is in the context of ML, and how it's rare to find people who have the right kind of cross-functional background to be able to do it. How would you describe your journey into evangelism, and how do you like it, and what would you say your day-to-day looks like?
Wow, that's a good question. It's a great question. I mean, this is the question to ask a DevRel person, right?
Glad we stumbled on it.
Yeah. So yeah, let's get it out of the way. I mean, I hope my bosses won't listen to this one. So in essence, I'm a scientist, and by training, I'm a researcher. I have like 10 years in academia, and I love building stuff, and I really. I'm like a research infrastructure kind of guy. I'm trying to bring into MLOps this whole thing of MLOps for research and development, which is different than MLOps in production. So I have my ideas and I want to share them, but I'm not really a people person. I'm not really like a DevRel kind of guy. I really like speaking with memes because it hides out the fact that I'm too blunt in day-to-day work to actually be an evangelist. And I'm basically lucked out into this position. And someday someone would wake up and say, "What the hell? I mean, put him back behind the Jupyter notebook where he belongs, and leave evangelism to somebody that's more suited to the job." But as you said, cross-functional is really, really hard. And being able to speak with data scientists, whom I think are the persona to be adopting MLOps right now, is important. I mean, so I guess I do have the credentials for the job, but do I want to be an evangelist forever? I guess not. This is just like a pit stop in my voyage. If I could, I would go back to be a researcher somewhere. But only if they let me do memes and be on podcasts, and because I mean this is like the best part of the job, being able to say to write memes at 1 o'clock at night and say, yeah, I worked today, I did my thing.
That's it. You put your feet up after you write a few memes, share them on Twitter, watch it go wildfire, get started.
I mean, yeah, I mean, this whole thing with the feature stores. I mean, we've known about feature stores since 2016, I think, right? With Netflix, the first feature store. And then like 2018, they will say, yeah, now this is the year to feature store, 2018. And then also 2019 was the year of the feature store. And then 2020 was the year of the feature store. And now everybody's like feature stores. And this whole thing of the wave of feature store triggered something with me. I had like a series of memes on feature stores and actually stores altogether. And this really connects to the thing we said before about jargon. Like we're a very jargon heavy occupation, and the vendors, and I'm also a vendor, yeah, but they tend to get caught on jargon because, I mean, let's look at our product, okay? Last year, we weren't an MLOps solution. Okay, we were an experiment tracking platform that tried to do better than the other experiment tracking platform by having orchestration and automation. What do you know? That's MLOps, right? If you look at it clearly. Now you just need to bake in the rest of the stuff, and you have a complete MLOps solution. That's where we are today. But to say we're MLOps, this is something that it's a jargon switch that's targeted toward triggering a familiarity with the engineer. Says, oh yeah, I want that. I want this MLOps solution, right? I want that feature store. I want that something store. We just say store, and then the engineer wants it because it's hip to have a store right now, right? So we have to be very careful about these jargons. And I think my memes also profess that we can actually, you know what, we can share those. Let's present
And while you're
this.
sharing that,
Yeah.
I was going to mention something and I completely forgot. So
Yeah. So, I mean, this was one of the first feature store memes I shared, right? That, if you say feature store or an MLOps community, you will have a vendor popping up. I mean, and
This is such a good one.
yeah, I got scolded a little bit for this one because, you don't want to involve murderous beings in your memes if you're representing an organization. But,
fair.
this is a meme. So I haven't shared that again until today because today we're talking about memes. So that's credible. But then I had this whole series about like people are saying databases, but that's actually a feature store. And then we have model registry, and now all of a sudden it's a model store. And we've had evaluation callbacks for ages, and now it's an evaluation store apparently. So having a store is something. And I had like I continued ranting about this until I felt fulfilled. It's like this marketing punching a nice database into being a feature store, and this what do you want, MLOps tools, how are we going to do is sell it as a store. And I actually just released on YouTube a 5-minute video of me explaining. I mean, it's actually me and my friend here explaining why you don't need a feature store sometimes, but basically, if you have to think like a feature store. So feature stores are a big meme, right? And every time there's like a big thing that irks me, if it's jargon, if it's the fact that everybody's using too much containers, everybody's using Kubeflow without understanding what it is, then I meme about it. So, but the thing is that meme is like a muscle. Once you flex it every time, if you flex it daily, then if Dimitri says, "Hey, why don't we have a meme about that?" So it's just a matter of concentrating a little bit, and I have a meme about it. So, and I think that's why he calls me the meme king. I don't feel like a king. I feel like a meme generator. I mean,
you're a meme Olympian. That's what you are.
Truly, that's a good one.
In the Olympics for memes. I remembered what I was going to say now while we were getting that up is this jargon and how pivoting into MLOps platforms. I saw just yesterday that Domino Data Lab now calls themselves the MLOps platform.
Domino. Oh, do you know about Domino? Do you know this product?
No, I have no
idea.
It's been
around for a while. It's one of the original platforms.
Domino is it's one of the like heavy ones for industry. I mean, I know them because like us, they're DGX compliant, I think. But I mean, as a platform, you would expect their marketing people to look at what's selling today. How can we make more companies use us? How can we increase the user base? Then maybe MLOps is the thing. This is why you have like so many posts about what MLOps is, and like 80% of them not making any sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
completely agree.
You know what? I'm gonna do a hot take right now. I mean, both of you probably watched Andrew Ng's MLOps fireside chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
I actually didn't get around to watching it, but I saw some clips.
Yeah. So when I watched that, I'm like, oh great! Now everybody's gonna think that MLOps is that, because I mean, like most of what he said is data ops, and the only thing that's like really MLOps is the thing that when you close the loop. When data comes in once you've deployed and you want to do retraining and continuous training, then it's the authority and role of MLOps to make sure that the data that you retrain on is of credible quality. I mean, that's only like a small fraction of what MLOps is. But now everybody's going to think that that's MLOps. Like closing the continuous training, that's MLOps. Data engineering, that's MLOps. Everything is MLOps now. And this like this is a little bit irresponsible towards, the actual MLOps engineers trying to do the work. I can't expect
Yeah.
someone like that does interfaces in Go and scales up in Scala and whatever, tries to hook up Spark to whatever monstrosity they have. Now coming, the bosses are coming and says, hey, listen, we heard that MLOps is continuous training. Yeah, so we're gonna need that in the next sprint or so. So can you do that? And that's not a solved problem. That's not something
Right.
that. So that's my
Yeah.
rant on the Andrew Inks thing, and I'm still waiting to meme on that. And you expect some memes on that once it gets more popular.
Yes.
Once you see the effects of this, I'm gonna flip.
Yeah, I think I've always had this belief. I think it really came to me in college of like, jargon is obfuscation. That's all it is. When you don't really know what you're talking about, and I do this myself, you default to talking in jargon, right? If you notice it in our own, the way we talk as humans, right? When we feel maybe threatened or not all that clear on what it is we're trying to communicate, we start throwing around words that nobody really knows what they mean, as a way of demonstrating a higher level of competence. I think I saw a quote online, like, jargon is covert prestige. I don't even know what that means, but
that's the reason why I did a PhD. So I get to talk in jargon, and people won't say, oh yeah, he's smart.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I wrote this down in my notes actually several months ago of like, we need to de-jargonize MLOps and ML engineering, because I was just like, this is, and to some extent, I do think that the MLOps community is an expression of that. It's a place where we talk about things. Sometimes we're talking a lot about jargon, but a lot of times we're just talking about, hey, this is the problem. Do I use this concept that I heard before, from some vendor or something? And a lot of people will say, you probably don't have to, because we're all problem-oriented people, right? We are the ones that actually have to think about, this is the thing I need to get done. How do I do it? And I think what the challenge is, so many times we're bombarded by vendors or thought leaders or whoever they might be, basically saying, this is the way you should do things, without any nuance devoted to what's the actual problem I'm trying to solve, right? Because the problem is always context specific, it's domain specific. And so I think that's my rant about the jargon and the sort of MLOps jargonization thing. I see.
Just called me out on all of our previous coffee sessions. I just speak in jargon. That's the way that I talk.
Actually, I disagree, Demetrius. I feel like you ask things pretty simply, and I feel like that's kind of the appeal of like the community right now. It's like we're kind of irreverent, we're kind of informal. It doesn't feel like a vendor chat, or like, I've been on Slack channels for other things, and it feels like you're at work. And I don't know about you, Ariel, but I feel like I'm not really all that much at work when I'm hanging out.
That's the first Slack channel that I find myself, logging in the morning and see if anybody commented or on my threads or something. My kid wakes me up with a kick to my head and like, oh, okay, so let's see if somebody from the US answered, because we have these time differences. So yeah, it does feel like something different, and really, I agree with what you said about Demetrius. I've been soaking up the coffee sessions and sometimes the meetups also, while I have free time. I didn't really answer the question of what I do day to day, but yeah, we can get that. But and I really appreciate, or maybe appreciate, if we were talking to the British audience here, it's not the simplicity, it's just the ground level, headstrong, non-compromising attack on the credibility of the process. MLOps is something that you should always think, have I over-engineered it? Did I make something complicated because I could, not because I needed? And I hear it a lot in Demetrius's sessions, and I think people resonate with that, because it's a constant reminder that the expectations that we are getting from stakeholders on what we're trying to do is stressful. And hearing that we're not the only one having the problems, also looking at the memes and resonating with that, it's actually something that we're missing, especially in 2020 and also now to 2021 with the COVID and stuff. Speaking from a country where everybody's vaccinated and you can go without masks outside. But yeah, this is a very important facet of MLOps community. And it's really around you, Dimitri. So you're the actual king here.
Yeah.
the big meat. No, yeah, I'm glad to hear you feel similarly, Ariel. It's nice to hear that people feel that way about Slack too. I have a question in kind of a different direction.
Let's go.
I think you're probably the first maybe person that we've had on the coffee sessions from Israel. Even though there's so many Israeli folks that are hanging out on the Slack, and and so many great companies, right? MLOps, ML related, all kinds of deep tech companies that are in Israel. And I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on how would you characterize the Israeli tech scene right now compared to maybe other other countries?
Okay, yeah. So first of all, it's a thing of wonder, and it really stems from the military. We have a couple of units. We can actually tell about them because they were declassified recently. It's Unit 8.1, cool. For example. It's like it's like the Q section of 007.
Yeah.
So Unit 8.1 is like the Q section of Israeli intelligence, and it was declassified. And I mean, most of the big startups, especially in deep learning, came out from there. And I think a lot of people were there, and they were like facing the engineering difficulties of making a product as actually a solution. We can say some things. I don't know what I'm allowed to say in English, but let's say it. For example, there was this like deep learning based solution, I think, to find out underground terror tunnels using and I mean, there were teams doing that, and then those people, they finished their military service, and they came out with the knowledge that they can't use, right? But what they can use is knowledge of what infrastructure you need in order to do that thing.
Right.
And then you saw multiple companies, MLOps companies from the first wave in Israel, and good companies with good people, with good ideas. Some of them survived, some of them didn't. And we have now the second and third waves, and we have like all of these like very sophisticated deep learning based solutions. I mean, also classical machine learning. One of the companies that I really like to talk about is healthy.io. I like to talk about them because every time the people ask me, what do they do? So what they do is they make urine tests using your smartphone.
Urine tests using your smartphone.
Yeah.
Is this
so
a meme?
The mental imagery
Joke.
is not what they're doing. They do. You have like a stick, and they use the camera from your phone to develop. Yeah.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So they are like valued in lots of money, and I have been to their offices. We worked with them on their infrastructure, and they were like one of the first companies doing deployed computer vision products that's not Google, right?
Yeah.
And they actually used it, for pregnant women trying to do their blood tests and at home without going to the infirmary. And I mean,
that's pretty awesome.
To be able to take on, infrastructure level kind of machine learning and data collection and validation and QA and all of that really needs lots of expertise that isn't, only nowadays is ready in the rest of the community. So I think that's what actually gave the bump for the Israeli swamp of machine learning. And but the other deficit is that there's a limited amount of people doing MLOps right now in Israel. And we're trying to educate more, bring more people into the fold from DevOps and also from machine learning. There are a lot of people that are more full stack in nature. Actually, the definition of what's full stack ML, I think needs to change a little bit. That's a topic for a different coffee session. But I'm guessing that you'll hear more and more. I mean, the rate that we have unicorns in Israel is, I mean, we're going to have more and more influential companies in our field as well, not just us. Actually, if you look at the AI infra, right, the infrastructure alliance, there are lots of Israeli companies there.
Okay.
And that's because of the maturity that understands that, you know, we can't win alone. I mean, we have to hold hands, and enemies become friends, competitors becomes supporters, and a lot of open source work, right? And that comes from maturity of understanding of, you know, we're always this small fish in the pond, in the large pond. So machine learning, I mean, you have like what, 300, more than 300 MLOps companies right now.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah. I feel like that's an undercount actually too.
Yeah. I mean, ever since Chip went on to do her thing and stopped counting, we don't know how many
Right.
MLOps companies are. But kudos, Chip. Yeah. But so let's say 400, right? So what makes your company? What makes the tool that you're selling more unique than the other one, right? Even if you have companies that do, we say, okay, we only do this, and this is why we're unique. We only do feature stores, and this is why we're unique. If you look really close, eventually all the companies, all the tools, they do everything, right? Because you can't sell. I mean, if you're coming to a company that just now started their voyage into machine learning or into data, and then there's a vacuum, your product has to do everything until they get the rest of the stack together. So all the products do everything, just they have like strengths and weaknesses, and trying to make sense of that is really, really, really hard. And if you're forecasting into the future, there's going to be like what, 20 or 30 survivors, I think, maybe.
Yeah, realistically.
Yeah, and most probably those will be the ones that banded together to have each other's backs in the beginning. And
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Wow. This conversation became really heavy, really, really quick. I mean, should we do some more memes?
Talk about memes? You were expecting memes the whole time. There's only so much memeing you can be doing.
And we have this. Ariel's a testament that memes can be truly 110% of the time. No, I think. I mean, to me, it was evident from the jump that behind all those memes was clearly a strong perspective on the way things should be done, or the strong perspective on sort of some of the problems about how things are going now. So I'm glad that we got to jump into that. I know Dimitrios has probably got a lot to say right now.
Yeah, I had a question around what you were talking about and this idea. I feel like obviously you're going to be seeing it from a bit of a biased perspective, but somebody told me the other day, they were saying the tooling space, what is interesting about it right now is that it's not totally proven out, right? Like, we're not sure that we need these tools yet. So do you have a perspective on that?
Yes. I think that's 100% true. Okay. You can definitely come up with, I don't know, we have this D-Scully image, in mind of the whole map of what's MLOps, right? And we have my meme about it. It's like, this was not, there it is. Right. So this small thing in the side, right? 2015, this is what you should have. I mean, but it's not an instruction manual. And just let me unshare it, because when I'm sharing it, I can't think. I can see you guys.
Just think about the memes. But
yeah,
for anybody that's listening.
And so, I mean, in its essence, okay, for example, let's look at my field where I'm concentrated as MLOps for R&D. You need only 4 things, okay? You need reproducibility, track everything. You need automation, Once you've done something once or twice, you want to do it again without touching. And you need orchestration, which means, you want to deploy this to a remote machine and have it work exactly like it is on your own machine, maybe even faster, right? And I said 3, and I said in the beginning 4. The 4th is it has to integrate easily with what you're doing, because otherwise nobody will do it, right? If to add pipelines to your code, you need to open it and add decorators everywhere, nobody will do it. Hint, hint. But okay, if you want to add more capabilities on top of that, you want to add data versioning or model registry, all of that. That's, the moment you have just tracking for everything, it's just, having an interface that's comfortable for you to use for a database. You want to add more things. You want to add productionalization. You want to add feature stores. It starts to become just abstractions that you can put on whatever databases you already had in place in order for it to scale out, so that if you switch behind the scenes into something bigger and better, the developers won't ever know because it's abstracted away, right? So from all the tools, okay, if everything we're building the tools as entities, but eventually you just have APIs, and the APIs will remain and the tools will be gone, and you have just one big thing that you'll be able to query as a different entity. Okay, am I lost to you guys? Have you okay?
No.
Yeah.
I'm hearing what you're saying.
Yeah.
No.
So if you have if we end up with 17 different components in the stack, okay, eventually somebody will say, hey, you know what? We can take these 5 and make them 1. Now you have a lean stack, and poof, you're left without this thing. And I'm going to see that. I think we're going to see that in monitoring and the whole data ops thing. It's actually somewhere I'm trying to take ClearML towards. Giving concentrating on the basic stuff that will survive forever. And if you need to reach out for a tool, don't reach out for a tool. Reach for an abstraction. Okay.
Yes.
Make sure that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I love that concept. I think one of the things that Todd Underwood said. So he came on this podcast, the direct, legend, director of ML SRE at Google, right? He said, when you think about it, a lot of the things that we talk about in MLOps is really just where we draw the relative boxes in the pipeline diagram, right? It's like, we spend a lot of time saying, oh, no, you drew the box this way, but I think it's this way. I think you should draw the line here. Where do we draw the lines for different steps? And what that is just thinking about abstractions, which is the core thing. Good software engineers, I think, often learn, in other fields to some extent, right? And can help as that software engineering experience starts to come into machine learning. We're going to see a more a better approach to the right kinds of abstractions based on what has worked over the last 20, 30, 40 years. Were you saying something, Dimitrios, there? Okay, just making sure. So yeah, I completely agree with that point around abstraction. Sorry if I got a little bit too excited about what you said there.
No, so let's do it. Let's focus on the theme here. How do we meme about the need for abstractions, right? What's the meme that stands for that, right?
What are the latest, most popular?
Live memeing session right now.
A live memeing session would be awesome.
We're gonna watch
that would be the thought process. I'm not expecting us to come up with the correct meme for that, but that would be the thought process. You find out a message that you want to condense, and if you can't condense it into meme form, you probably shouldn't condense it into a Medium post or a Substack scroll or a tweet.
Yeah, story, right? That's true.
So we agree that abstraction. That's I think the first time I heard that was from Laszlo, right? That the charter for MLOps is the abstraction of providence.
Whoa!
Whatever okay. And that's like the first time that MLOps really clicked for me. I think, yeah. What are you doing? Are you memeing that right now?
No, I'm literally I'm looking at what providence means
Okay. Oh
to
yeah.
make sure that I understand.
We have a saying when we bury someone in Israel. We have a saying like know where you came from and where you're going, and that's
Okay.
provenance, right?
Okay.
It's like
Okay.
whenever at any moment in time when you're looking at a model, you're supposed to be able to have like a method or whatever, or a JSON that says, this model was created by so and so and such. It saw this data version, it trained for such and such time, and this was the metrics at QA, and this is the latest metrics from live and whatever else, right? Energy, I don't know. And you're supposed to have that as like a method that you can abstract away, like get model, get provenance, go. This is for me, that's the holy grail of MLOps.
Right.
But we're not there yet, and we won't get there. I mean, I just had a meme about this with Neil Lathia, about the fact that IDs are so important, right? You have the model ID, you have the dataset ID, you have the cron job ID for your pipeline ID of your hyperparameter IDs, hyperparameter set ID, and all of that. Who is the master ID? Is it the Git commit? Who is it the cron job? Is it the data set? Everybody has a different notion. Until we have like a consolidation of how do you do the ID tree, right? You won't get any decent abstraction coming out, and that's a problem. That I think it's like one of the nascent, not nascent, nested problems of MLOps that we're still not tackling because we're not there yet, but we will be.
But what
then
do you
my
think?
memes will make sense to more people. Like,
what do you think would be the way to fix that? Is it just standardization around these IDs? And it's almost like a bigger question, because that's just one little microcosm. But I mentioned it before, right? Like standardizing and how we can all be on the same page and say we choose as whatever it is, the community or the greater ecosystem, to say this is how we do things. But the really hard part that I see within that is that since there are so many different use cases and you have so many different arms and legs of machine learning, it's really hard to find a standardization that will work across the board.
Yeah, let me take you back to my metaphor on the Stone Age. Okay, everybody's doing whatever they want because it works for them. Someday someone, maybe Google, maybe Amazon, maybe somebody else would come up with some good abstraction and good tool chain that works across the board, from the data scientist to the DevOps engineer, the SRE, whatever. Okay, and it will click for everyone, and everybody will say, F that, we're going to use this from now on. Like, it's going to be ubiquitous, like S3, right? Simple storage service. I mean, it's like 15 years now. It's everywhere. And it's because that it was something that, it's super complex. If you look at it, there's so many problems with it. But just for the basic usages, it's easy. And someday, somewhere, there's going to be like a paradigm shift, and we're going to get some tools that have the same effect. And everybody will say, what we have now, we don't need it anymore because we have this. And then finally, we'll get out of the machine learning Stone Age. And as I said, maybe then we would see the whole of MLOps collapse to just, maintaining that tool that everybody uses. And then we have, a resurgence like we have today with like, Kubernetes S3 endpoints like Min.io. But you see what I'm going through. That's actually let's say the steel age, right, of S3. Yeah. But in MLOps, I don't know how the steel age would look like. It but all really revolves about how expensive it is to train like those large models. But that's also a topic for a different day.
But I feel like I want to push back on you on that a little bit, because it seems like condensing it all to something that comes out and it works is not really the way it's going to go. I look at like what's been happening in the DevOps space and with Kubernetes, and you look at the CNCF and it's just continuously growing. And I feel like MLOps is got all of that with it and some, and it's going to be at least as much. It's just a question of, will the ecosystem support it, right? Because right now, Kubernetes, there's so many companies and different enterprises that are using Kubernetes or starting to go onto Kubernetes that it supports this thriving ecosystem. So I think once we see lots of companies and enterprises that really are adopting machine learning and they're actually getting these solid MLOps practices, we'll see that ecosystem thrive here too.
You're probably right, but what's the interface? Is it JSON, YAML? That's what we have. That's what we're going to end up with. I mean, that seems so non-expressive to the challenges that MLOps have, right? I mean, if for example, okay, we have this company that uses our products. They're called Theater.io. Okay, they do surgical analytics real time. We have like several deep learning models looking at the operation as it happens, monitoring blood spillouts, cuts, everything. And they have like this thing that they can push research code into production to actual train models and deploy them at hospitals with no DevOps intervening, right? I mean, that thing cannot work without some domain-specific language that the researchers at the company can form for themselves. But I mean, it has to have like one hop. DSL, boom, standardized stuff. So it's like one hop to JSON. So if you have that thing, so the only thing you need to worry at your company is how you implement this one layer between that and the other stuff. Okay, and for that, with this, I agree with you. I mean, we will have standardization at that level, and then the MLEs, the engineers, there won't be MLOps engineers. They will have MLOps tools to consolidate, write the platform, and the platform for each company would be just, the translating of this, writing this domain-specific language that domain experts and the data scientists and all of those people can describe, or let's call it declaratively. Okay, Vishnu went. Describe declaratively what they need. And then it turns into an MLOps process. And for that, I agree with you. We won't have, we need some kind of standardization. Because of the pushback from Kubernetes, I guess it would be around microservices. But
yeah.
I mean, I hope that not. I mean, as a scientist, I don't want to learn Kubernetes ever. I want to know of it. I don't ever want to deploy anything. I want just to press a button and have my model trained and then turn it into a pipeline and ship it and tell DevOps, this is the pipeline that should become automatic. I don't care about it anymore. Call me if the monitoring, by the way, I have to supply the monitoring to you because evaluation store, right? So call me if something is wrong. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I love your opinions on this, and I love your memes even more. So hopefully those who are listening and watching enjoyed some of these memes. If you want more of them, you can follow Ariel or ClearML, right? Where you'll get all kinds of memes.
No, I mean,
ClearML doesn't.
I've sworn not to put memes on ClearML because it's too sensitive. I guess check the community for memes. I think the best ones come there.
Yeah, it'll be in random, or unless by the time you're listening to this, we've made a specific meme channel, which is quite likely. If more people get into the meme game, we will
Hopefully.
create a meme channel for it and keep it going. But Ariel, thanks, man. I know this is one that we did, and it's a little outside of the norm when it comes to the coffee sessions, but I had a blast talking to you and also looking at your memes, revisiting some of the old memes that hit hard, and you came out swinging, which I love. I love your frankness. I love like you said, you are blunt and you keep it real. So thanks again, though, man.
Thanks for having me. It was real fun.